The Vitamin Shoppe just reported Texas-sized sales growth, but that isn't the only Texas news the specialty supplement retailer recently shared. So I'll get to my thoughts a little bit later in this piece of content around that introduction, but I did want to run through some of the basics of the 2021 quarter 2 earnings report and conference call for the Vitamin Shoppe that was released on August 3rd of 2021. For those that aren't aware, Vitamin Shoppe is now part of a publicly traded portfolio company called the Franchise Group, or the stock ticker FRG. That acquisition closed in December of 2019. So if you're looking for the old Vitamin Shoppe stock ticker VSI, it only lives in you and I's heart. Being that the Franchise Group likes to make my life a little bit more difficult by not breaking out the segment level financial details, this particular piece of content is going to be a little bit light on the financial data, but I'll make up for it on just the overall strategic information. So this is still a very valuable piece of content. So just starting at the financial data so we can get that out of the way right off the bat. The 2021 quarter 2 revenue, top line revenue for the Vitamin Shoppe was $302.6 million. That was up 27% year over year and up 3% quarter over quarter on a sequential basis. Now, as gyms have reopened and just overall a lot of the United States has kind of started to go through that reopening process, you are seeing consumers get back to some normal behaviors and buying patterns. So you're seeing a lot more sports nutrition products, a lot more weight management products, and just overall fitness related supplements increase in sales for the Vitamin Shoppe. And that's on top of the sustained just overall vitamins, mineral, and supplement type category purchases that have really seen a boost from the COVID-19 effect. Now, looking at just like the same store comps number, the Vitamin Shoppe did post a positive 28% number here. If you're looking at the in-store same store comps, that was up 44.8%, so a insane kind of number. And then on the direct to consumer side, that comp was actually a negative 14.8. And that number, though astounding, is something that you're seeing across a lot of the physical retailers, because as consumers have gotten more comfortable coming out and shopping in person, and these numbers are lapping a time when a lot of the retailers were closed or had restricted type of operating models, you're seeing an extreme amount of like year over year positive sales growth that's coming from the physical store locations. Before I transition out of the financial information, I did want to just kind of cover the net profitability of the Vitamin Shoppe and that segment within the Franchise Group. They did turn a profit of $22.4 million, though from a net profitability type of percentage is probably not exactly where the Vitamin Shoppe would like to be. They probably would like it to be up another $10 or $20 million on the quarter. If we're looking at this from the 2020 quarter 2 net profitability, they made a huge improvement because they actually were not profitable during that quarter. So regardless of how it kind of turned out this specific quarter from where they would like it to be, it's a vast improvement from where they've been. Now, rolling into the franchising update, if you guys have missed the last few pieces of Vitamin Shoppe content that I've put out, I have been talking about just the franchise details and just a little bit of the information that I have been acquiring over the last kind of year of the Vitamin Shoppe transitioning. If you guys haven't watched specifically the video on just like the details around the Vitamin Shoppe franchising process, I'll pop up that video for you guys right here, and a link will be available in the contents description. But since the last earnings release, the Vitamin Shoppe has made substantial progress in its franchising strategy. The Vitamin Shoppe announced the signing of its first ever franchise agreement for the operation of independently owned stores. The multi-unit agreement will see 3 franchise stores open in Texas in the communities of East Texas, New Braunfels, and Harlingen. The stores are expected to open within the next 9 months. And something exceptionally kind of cool that I thought, at least in this first particular franchise agreement, the first one in the 44-ish year operating history of the Vitamin Shoppe, is that the franchisees actually have a background in the Vitamin Shoppe. And it's pretty extensive, actually, a 12-year store management experience. So they're starting off with a very authentic franchisee right off the bat, and really should set the tone in terms of how the Vitamin Shoppe is thinking about their franchising strategy. Additionally, leadership kind of gave us some more details in terms of how the franchising process is going. This has been kind of the first full quarter of franchising activity for the Vitamin Shoppe. They've had a little bit over 24 prospective franchisees go through their discovery day, and they've had 16 other candidates that have completed or in the process of completing a franchise application for the Vitamin Shoppe's approval. As a reminder, the franchise group is looking from a portfolio perspective of all of its retail brands to get somewhere around 90% of their locations be franchised. Now, for the Vitamin Shoppe, that's going to be very tough to do. They started at 0% because all of them were company owned, and the overall market could not support several thousand other retail locations for the Vitamin Shoppe for them to be successful. So they're never really kind of going to get to that 90%, but that doesn't mean that they won't get close. And how they're going to get close is over time, as the Vitamin Shoppe becomes more comfortable with where they're looking from new applicants, they're going to look at their stores and figure out if there's any of these territories that make sense to refranchise. Now, they haven't talked about this yet, but this is kind of a prediction that I have, is that they will go through some type of refranchising process. It seems that the other franchise group retail names have went through a similar process, so I'd expect this to be the same. But overall, a really strong update in terms of the franchising progress for the Vitamin Shoppe. And at quarter's end, the Vitamin Shoppe did have 716 stores overall within their network. Now, in a similar kind of sense, international expansion for the Vitamin Shoppe, this is kind of a newer area as well. They have dabbled in it over the years, but has really been a focus over the last probably year or two as the Vitamin Shoppe looks to build out global brand equity. Vitamin Shoppe has always been a place where they sell other people's brands, but they haven't been a brand themselves, and that is changing very fast. The company now operates within 5 different countries. In Guatemala, they have 10 stores. In Panama, they have 8 stores. Paraguay, they have 3 stores. And then Vietnam, they have 2 stores. And then recently, they just announced that they're in the South Korean market, which is the Vitamin Shoppe's second foray in the Asian market. The Vitamin Shoppe announced its expansion into South Korea with the launch of vitaminshoppe.kr, a directly owned and operated e-commerce business. The initial merchandising assortment will be focused on Vitamin Shoppe private label products delivered directly from the United States, with door-to-door shipping in 3 days on average to anywhere in South Korea. Additionally, the Vitamin Shoppe has launched branded digital stores on 20 leading online marketplaces in South Korea. South Korea is one of the largest e-commerce markets in the world, serving a digitally savvy population. Now, supplement brand owners that are consuming my content might be thinking, hey, what about us? When do we actually get to be sold in South Korea? That actually is going to be in the next phase, and they haven't really kind of talked about when that date is going to be, but there is going to be some opportunities to be sold in the South Korean market through the Vitamin Shoppe's online experience. I'm sure many of you guys have been kind of caught up in the Olympic buzz. Maybe you haven't for whatever reason, but regardless, every 2 years, marketers compete to capture consumers' attention around this sporting and cultural event. I mentioned in the last piece of content that the Vitamin Shoppe was getting ahead of the 2022 Beijing Winter Games by sponsoring a figure skater, but they also announced a recent sponsorship of a freestyle wrestler, David Taylor, that is competing in this Summer Games. While these moves seem to be focused largely around the halo effect that is the Olympics, I would love to see the Vitamin Shoppe utilize these athletes in a much more dynamic way, similar to what Gymshark seems to use with their athletes, the ones that have this freak athleticism that has kind of catch your eye type content that can be created, be it gymnastics, be it in this case, figure skating, wrestling. These athletes are above and beyond what the weekend warrior can do. And I think creating content like that would take these sponsorship and partnerships up a notch and provide the Vitamin Shoppe with a lot better content than just somebody taking a picture with some private label supplement bottles or some type of branded apparel. It just doesn't look authentic. It's just not where social media is going. It's not necessarily what I would want to put out if I was on the social media team of the Vitamin Shoppe. Now, along the same lines of the Olympic sponsorship, the Vitamin Shoppe has become the official supplement retailer of the Ironman. The mission of the Vitamin Shoppe and Ironman partnership is to provide one-stop access via a dedicated Ironman at the Vitamin Shoppe site to provide nutritional expertise, education, and a curated selection of high-quality products specifically formulated to aid in the rigorous training, recovery, and competition undertaken by Ironman athletes. All athletes registered for upcoming full-distance and half-distance Ironman US events will have access to the dedicated site where, once enrolled, they will receive exclusive discounts on both national brands and the Vitamin Shoppe's proprietary brands. While the content and commerce microsite strategy deepens this partnership, the Vitamin Shoppe is also using this to kind of build out some brand equity around their True Athlete private label brand that is NSF for Sport certified. For those that aren't aware, the Ironman events follow a anti-doping program that all participants must adhere to. Now, I do want to kind of give a little bit of like a merchandising update. Firstly, I want to throw some love to my good friends at Ghost Lifestyle. I mentioned that they launched their Ghost Energy in November of 2020, but they now have their traditional sports nutrition SKUs in all of the Vitamin Shoppe locations. But more importantly, they negotiated the first ever cohesive brand block, which marks a specialized merchandising strategy that contrasts with the Vitamin Shoppe's typical category-based focus. Secondly, I always want to be a platform that applauds progress in the business categories that I have some semblance of influence in. Fact is, the sports nutrition space has been too white and too male dominated at the ownership level for far too long. The lack of diverse voices in the room really has held back the sports nutrition market. So I do want to call out two specific brands that are now being sold at the Vitamin Shoppe, because if I can shine any bit of light on them to potentially help them create more sales, I'm going to do the best that I can to do that. Body Complete RX was founded and self-funded by Samia Gore in 2017. This will make them the first Black female-owned brand to launch in the retailer's weight management category. In just under 4 years, Body Complete RX has grossed over $10 million in sales. And then Tone It Up is a female-focused and female-run wellness brand that was started by Karina Dawn and Katrina Scott. After meeting at the gym over 10 years ago, Tone It Up founders were one of the pioneers in the fitness influencer space and focused on creating an overwhelming sense of community for women in all stages of life through their app platform, nutrition line, and workout and meditation library. Now, transitioning over to just mergers and acquisitions, kind of news for the franchise group, they did mention that over the last year, they've looked at somewhere around 100 different deals in terms of like adding assets to their business. And really, they've only pulled the trigger on one. And that might seem like a huge waste of resources to kind of look at those many deals and only pull the trigger on one. But even though those 99 or so deals didn't make sense for the company, it does provide still a ton of value to the company. These types of due diligence projects, especially when you're looking at franchise or franchisable businesses, does teach the franchise group a ton about franchising. That then can be rolled into what they're doing already in their businesses. They can kind of peg that against some of their best practices. They can kind of add some different things. They can also kind of understand what they're good at, what they're not good at, what they're comfortable with, what they're not comfortable with. It kind of breaks them out of that mechanical thinking and kind of keeps them in this continuous learning type mindset. But that being said, the franchise group is looking for both bolt-on M&A assets to some of their current retail names. They also want to diversify out of just basic retail product names and more into services, and just overall diversify their categories that can work in a synergistic realistic way. Now, I do want to end on some final thoughts here. While 27% year-over-year growth and 45% in-store same-store comps will definitely not be sustainable, the Vitamin Shoppe is executing at a high level in a high demand category. Maybe the most impressive stat on this quarterly performance is that they did grow on a sequential quarter-over-quarter basis, because quarter one is traditionally, from a seasonality perspective, the strongest quarter for Vitamin Shoppe and any supplement related businesses, because a lot of the new year, new me resolutionist crowd that ends up spending a lot around their health and wellness. At a run rate now of over $1.2 billion, this would actually get them right from like a revenue perspective at the peak of the mid 2010s. But it's going to be done with a lot smaller of a store fleet. So this is a much more impressive feat for the Vitamin Shoppe to do that. And because the Vitamin Shoppe is kind of shielded by the franchise group, its turnaround hasn't really been front and center, and people maybe are not paying attention to it, which is a mistake. So if you have any questions relating to the content or just around the Vitamin Shoppe in general, please feel free to leave a comment on the content or reach out to me on any of my social media accounts.